Welcome back to Beyond the Wrench. My name is Jay Goninen, and I am your host. On today's show, we welcome Dr. Thomas Litzinger and James Odell from Northwood University. We're going to learn all about their amazing accomplishments and all things Northwood University. I think there's a lot of people that are interested in everything that they have going on up there. This program in general has been a top producer of leaders in our industry. And as I learn more and more about Northwood University, I can't say enough about how impressed I am. So welcome to the show, guys. How are you doing today?
We're doing great, Jay. Thank you so much for inviting us. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the industry, and it is a great pleasure for us to be here today.
Well, thank you. And since you spoke first, I'm going to go with you, Thomas. Let's talk about your background. Yeah, first of all, you're a doctor.
Yes, I have a doctorate degree in traumatology. I'm also a licensed psychologist in the state of Michigan. So I'm very passionate about the work related to substance abuse and mental health. So I'm involved in a practice here in town, but really utilize my education to get in the education space. To quick story, I one of our programs at Northwood is our Leadership 2.0. I went through that. That set me on the trajectory that I am on today. And who knows, who knew 12 years ago that I would end up where I'm at today, and just been in the industry for nearly 25 years on the distribution side, manufacturing side, and retail. And just am passionate about giving back to the industry that's been so good to me.
And so, walk me through a day in the life. What are you doing each day? What are you teaching? Give us an idea of what you're doing at Northwood.
Okay, so this semester I'm teaching a management research class. Mostly seniors in the class. It's their capstone course, and we are just doing an intensive research project, 25 pages of the subject matter that our students want to choose, and just really guiding them on how to do meaningful research.
That's amazing. James, on to you. I've had several really good conversations with you. I think all of us share that love for getting the industry into a better place, but I've really enjoyed our conversations, James. Same for you. What got you into this space?
So Thomas and I have worked together in the past, and as he mentioned, he went through one of our professional development programs called Leadership 2.0, and he came back changed. And he said, "You have got to go through this." And I kind of pushed back, and eventually he won. And I went through Leadership 2.0, and I was like, "Wow, this is transformative." So 10 years later, have been in the industry 22 plus years in sales and marketing, doing different things. And he had been hired by Northwood, and he approached me with, "Hey, would you be interested?" And of course I said yes. What Northwood has done, and the leaders of the programs previously have had an impact in my own life, and I'm so grateful for their impact, and the chance to then be part of that was special for me. And so I took the shot at it, and lo and behold, was offered the position, and so grateful for that and excited to be part of it. So now I'm with Northwood less than a year. I teach in their undergrad program with Thomas. I work in the professional development space with him there. We call that the University of the Aftermarket, and we put on programs. So get to be involved in both of those, and super grateful and excited every day to have that chance to promote the industry. And as we say on campus, inspire human potential. Specifically in the University of the Aftermarket, we talk about promoting the human condition and doing that through education and opportunity. I know that's something that you're passionate about as well, Jay. We do it in slightly different ways. Us in more the business and academic setting, you in the technical setting. But while the technical is not our space, and we fully support that and want to see more technicians, we want to see people improve their lot in life through education and opportunity there. So we are all in on education and training for the development and betterment of our industry and the folks that are in it.
What did you spend your time in industry doing prior to coming to Northwood?
So I was in sales and marketing in the distribution channel. So warehouse distribution, running sales territories, doing marketing, being in distribution. I worked for one of the companies. The company I worked for longest was a smaller regional player, family owned. So we wore a lot of hats. So in the marketing department, we ran the training for all of our shops. We put on the customer events. We had P&L responsibility for our departments. So pretty involved. I ended up going to Apex for a number of years and interviewing potential partners and current partners, negotiating our deals and looking at what's best for our company. So involvement in a lot of different areas, but then also maintaining a sales territory the whole time. So pretty much in that one realm of responsibility for my 22 plus years before coming to Northwood.
It's very impressive what you guys do at Northwood, but what Northwood does as a whole, right? And this is something that I think, as somebody that starts to dive into the lineage of Northwood and you start to see some of the distinguished alumni and the alumni network in general, the amount of leaders in our industry that have gone through that university is impressive, right? There's a lot of when I say there's a lot of leaders in our industry that came through your program, that's not lying. They're all over the place. And I feel like it's growing in general, just the notoriety and, even having this podcast, right? It's maybe reaching out to a different channel than maybe Northwood had traditionally done. But what makes Northwood so special? And I'll open that to either of you, because it does seem like such I don't even want to say hidden gem anymore, because I don't feel like it's hidden, but a gem in the Midwest that is just producing powerhouse talent. And so I'll open that to either of you. What makes Northwood so special?
Well, I'll just start and then I'll turn it to James. But Jay, what I believe what makes Northwood special is that we're America's free enterprise university. We develop leaders that drive economic and social progress. So when you look at our alumni and when you look at the training and the education that they received at Northwood, it adequately prepares them to come out into the business world and succeed at a very unique place. And, we'd like to talk to our students about they are uniquely qualified and highly sought after because of the education they're receiving at Northwood. And that's how our industry views it. Our feedback is, hey, we love your students. The only problem is we need more of them. So maybe this will help facilitate that.
James, anything to add there?
Of that, yeah, I agree with all of that. Being the small university that we are, students don't come to us by accident. Their parents aren't sending them to us because they don't know what else to do with them. They come to us because they are intent on what they want, specifically in our automotive programs and in the aftermarket. They come to us because they are passionate about our industry and they are looking for a place where they can further those passions. A statistic that our president likes to quote often is that more than a third of our graduates own their own business. So they are entrepreneurs, they are passionate, they have a vision, and they come to us to gain some additional skills to help them accomplish that vision that they see. So they come out with drive, with energy. They have something that they're shooting for. And in the aftermarket program, it is fun to engage with our students because they have such a diverse set of goals that they want. Some want to be in commercial vehicle, some want to be in racing and performance, some want to be own their own shop, some want to be a diesel shop, some want to be in the collision space. So any area of the aftermarket is represented by our student base in what they want to accomplish. And so for us, it's trying to connect with folks like you and others to give them whatever pathway they want to choose, to have an opportunity to pursue that pathway. And it's a lot of fun. I would be remiss not to comment on those who have come before us in Northwood, both professors in the undergraduate program, but also in our University of the Aftermarket professional development. The folks that have run that have done a great job, have impacted my own life personally. And like you said, the fruit of their efforts is seen in the aftermarket with those who are leading, who are making impact in their organization all across the aftermarket.
It truly is incredible. And honestly, I think looking back as me growing up in the industry, I didn't even know there was a resource like this out there, right? I didn't know there was a university that focused on something that was of interest to me. How did Northwood get that niche? Like, what drove them into the automotive space?
Well, they started back as an institute, and they were passionate about free market economics. And part of that was they developed into this private business only university. And some of what they developed into was industry specific degrees. Automotive happens to have two of those, but it's not the only industry represented on campus. So when you talk to some of the folks in the industry that are high level folks who started at Northwood when we opened the automotive program in the 70s, they will tell you some amazing stories about their first instructors being gentlemen who have been in the industry for many years, going back to the 30s and 40s when they started their career and selling wagon wheels and lamps as aftermarket accessories onto the Model T or other vehicles. And again, that's our history and heritage of free market business, entrepreneurship, and industry being one of the ways that that expressed itself. So, I mean, it's fascinating to talk to some of our alumni who were originals in that first year of the program, and the stories that they tell are just amazing.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Wrench. We'd like to take a minute to talk about this week's sponsor, Machinists Union District Lodge 77. The American economy was built on the automobile and truck industry, and Machinists Union District Lodge 77 has proudly represented employees in this vital sector since 1942. Machinists Union District Lodge 77's membership is as diversified as the area it services. With a centralized office located in Van Nuys Heights, Minnesota, Machinists Union District Lodge 77 represents and services about 2,600 members from multiple industries, including independent automobile and truck repair and automotive truck dealerships in Minnesota and Wisconsin. A union job means the guarantee of a contract. A contract is a legally binding and enforceable document which establishes wages, hours, and terms and conditions of work. If you are interested in organizing or negotiating a contract at your shop or dealership, or if you'd like more information, please call Machinists Union organizer Jeannie Uloa at 630-809-2249 for a confidential conversation. Thomas, how hard is it to, you hear all of these different goals and aspirations of your students, and you're teaching a business class. Is it hard not to focus in on one specific part of the industry, or is it pretty Is it maybe let me rephrase that question. Is it challenging when you do have those different backgrounds and those people wanting to go to different areas of our industry? Because there are a lot of differences between maybe that person that aspires to be a shop owner versus the one that wants to go to corporate America. Is it hard when you're in teaching these classes or not so much?
Not so much. First, let me say our students are amazing. And as James mentioned, they come to Northwood very focused on the goals that they want to achieve. So as we share our passion in the classroom about the aftermarket and leadership and making choices that inspire life satisfaction and all of that, it's just so fun to see the students embrace that. It's not it's challenging in the sense that we want to deliver a world-class product for them, right? But it's inspiring to us to see them grasp that, and really, as we grow with our students, we see them develop, and then we see their choices come to fruition in the companies that they choose to work with. And there's nothing more satisfying than to get that call from a student saying, I have 2 job offers and I don't know which one to take. And then what should I do? And then, we just always lead them back to the choices that will really inspire them, help them to grow in their career, help them to really experience, I'm going to use the term again, life satisfaction, because we want our students to be in a place where they're inspired, where they're motivated, where they're making a difference, not only in the industry, but in their private lives as well.
I want to talk a little bit more about the student side. And one of the common complaints, I don't think even in just our industry, but basically the world as a whole, the business world as a whole, are some of the generational gaps that exist. And I was at a conference, this is probably 5 years ago, and it was one of the best illustrations of generational gaps that I've ever seen. And basically what it was this Time magazine cover, and it had all of these complaints of the next generation, right? They're lazy, they don't listen, they don't, it was kind of all of these different things that the older generation was complaining about. And so the lady on stage was talking about the generational gaps and the difficulties. And I think a lot of people were assuming that was maybe baby boomers talking about Gen Xers or, something along those lines. But she removed a cover or a piece of the cover to expose that it was from like 1970. And so these generational gaps have been there forever, right? And I think as you get older in the industry, those become more glaring and you start to see some of those differences. Even for me as a 40-year-old, seeing some of the young people that come into our company, there are challenges that exist in communication because of those barriers, right? And I say barriers, but I think they're not so much barriers as much as just general communication challenges. So, Thomas, I'll stick with you there. Any thought to that as far as the generational gaps that maybe you see, and do they pose challenges once some of these young people enter the workforce?
They could pose challenges if you allow them to, but, from my perspective, I look at it as over time, our societal norms have changed, right? And if you look at the greatest generation, our World War II veterans, they viewed the baby boomers probably as that entitled generation, right? They're soft, they're this or that, right? And then being a boomer, personally, I set out to give my children things that maybe I didn't have as a child. And so then we were different. We had different values than maybe our parents did. We worked for multiple companies where perhaps our parents only worked for one because of that loyalty of that, hey, this is what I'm inspired to do. But but then really, I personally, again, this is just me speaking. I'm not speaking on behalf of Northwood or James. I just love what the younger generations have brought to the workplace. You know, it's very unique. I think we have 6 generations right now in the workplace. First time ever, right? And it is challenging in the sense, but when you embrace that and when you develop key elements like reverse mentoring and things like that, these young people are amazing. They have so much to offer. We have so much to learn from them. I'm telling you, sometimes I leave the classroom and I've learned more from my students than they've learned from me. And I embrace that, and I love it, and I think it's fabulous.
What a great perspective. James, anything you'd add there?
Yeah, it is so fun to be in class with these students. As I mentioned, they don't come to us by accident, not knowing where to go. They are serious and passionate about our industry. And as such, they are motivated to make an impact in automotive. An example of that would be our International Auto Show that we have every year. It's entirely student run. They bring more than $100 million worth of vehicles on display on campus, in addition to all the other exhibitors. So when you, as a different generation than them, are on campus and watching what they're doing, if you are an employer and you're on campus exhibiting at the show or just engaging with the students, you sit back and look and you go, wow. And it gets you energized, like, wow, look at what's possible. Look at what they're bringing. They bring an energy. You know, as we get older, some of us get a little stodgy and, you know, we're low energy because we're getting old. And here comes this new student and they're just vim and vigor and passion. And you're like, wow, I want to be part of that.
I love it. The car geek in me has to ask about the $100 million worth of cars out there. Is that private collections people are bringing, or what is the mix of cars that come to this car show? I've seen some advertising for it. You guys have talked to me about it in the past, but it blows me away how great this show is.
It is a mix of a lot of different sources for the vehicles. Some of it is private collections where the collectors are attached to Northwood somehow. They're an alumni, they're a donor, a sponsor. They know an alumni works for them. They're somehow connected, and then they support us by sending their collections up for display, whether it's a multi-million-dollar vehicle, whether it's a performance outfitter who does specialty Corvettes, and they send some examples up. Other displays are dealerships from the area, just your regular dealership. And here's the newest vehicle on my lot, and they send 4 or 5 examples of that up. Some of it is classic car collectors. Some of them are maybe sport utility, specialty vehicles, or maybe they're in the agricultural space and they send up some equipment for display. Maybe it's a motorcycle or a boat or all different kinds of anything that is a motorized vehicle. We have people send those up to be displayed, from dealerships to private collectors to anything in between.
Did you say like Lingenfelter? Is he a part of it? Does he bring cars?
He does.
He does.
He is a trustee and supporter and exhibitor and all of the above. So he does have a booth here on campus for the auto show, and he's an amazing supporter.
Yeah, the car geek inside of me is freaking out right now because I've followed his stuff forever, and it's really, really cool. Now, is it a judge show? Are there trophies handed out? Is it more of a just come browse all of these cool cars? What is the intent of the show?
It is the intent of the show is to give our students an opportunity to practice leadership, to develop them. And so it's entirely student run. There aren't trophies given away for best vehicle. It's not that type of a car show. There are prizes given away to our students where they compete against one another for best booth, and they run their own booths. So the Asian nameplate vehicles all go in one segment, and it's run by a student, and then each booth within that has its own team captain, and they hire their own other students to be on their team. And so they compete with one another for best booth. Same thing in the aftermarket lot and all the other lots. So they're competing against one another in best display, but the vehicles themselves are not competing against one another for best vehicle. We do have a classic car show that's attached to it. And, there's always some friendly competition there, but it's more just an invitation for the community to come see what's going on campus, to engage with our students, for sponsors to engage with our students and see what they're capable of, and give our students exposure and bring the community on and see what we're all about.
Well, and Jay, I'll just say this right now. You are cordially invited to next year's auto show.
Oh my goodness.
We'll get you a VIP pass and we'll take you around campus on a golf cart, and you will have an incredible time. So please join us for this fall's show. You will love it.
I'm honored. That is
podcast from campus. You can talk with the students. It would be amazing.
Well, I'm blown away and honored by the invitation. I surely hope I can take you up on it. That sounds so cool, and I appreciate it. And for somebody, I ran a very small car show, 100 cars or less, right around that 100 car mark, just because we didn't have room for more. But it is challenging, and there are so many parallels to business in general in running that car show. And we do it to donate a scholarship. But man, the amount of juggling you have to do, and the amount of you're trying to keep everybody happy. And I think in some level, it is very similar to a business, right? Where you're trying to do all of these things. You're trying to put on the best show you can, but there are challenges and there are roadblocks that you're going to run up against. And the fact that you guys have a student run show of that magnitude is amazing. It's so hard to do. And I don't think anybody that's never run a car show truly understands how tough it is, but man, it is challenging.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, Jay, I don't think 100 car show is that small. Congratulations for that. But really all the credit goes to our students. They do a remarkable job. They are so passionate about it. And when you see the end result, you just kind of walk around like with your jaw drop, because it's amazing. But the credit goes to our students.
That's incredible.
They spend a year preparing for it, and as soon as the car show is done, they elect their own leadership for the coming year, and planning starts all over.
Wow. That is really cool. Now, you talked about how nobody goes to Northwood by accident, right? They're pretty intentional about going there. Before we hit record on this show, we talked about at times with other universities, there'll be students that go because that's what they were told they need to do, right? They have to go to a 4-year university, and maybe they find out that what they went and got that degree in isn't exactly what they were wanting. That doesn't happen at Northwood because you're going there intentionally. Talk to me a little bit about the different types of degrees that are available through Northwood.
So we are a private business school. So in addition to our automotive programs, we have an accounting program, we have a supply chain program, finance, we have a hospitality program that is one of the most successful in the country. So the students are receiving an incredible education, really from experts in their field, subject matter experts in their field that have worked in the field or industry that they're teaching in. So then that adds a completely different element. And just back to the aftermarket programs, look, when we're in the class, we're talking about real life aftermarket. We're using textbooks, but we're pulling in real life examples. We are participating in experiential activities, as in next week, we're taking 20 students to an industry event. So really, that's what sets Northwood apart. And the accounting program, second to none, finance, supply chain, all those programs. Again, our students leave Northwood with multiple offers, and it just speaks to the quality of our student, but also contributes to the quality of the education that they receive at Northwood.
I think it kind of goes without saying, James, that that quality doesn't come by accident, right? There's got to be some level of, whether it's the quality of person you hire for the faculty at Northwood, the processes they have in place. Talk to me a little bit about how you get to that level of excellence.
Well, the university is very intent on our philosophy of education. So part of what makes our philosophy work is that they are hiring, as Thomas said, subject matter experts, people who have been in those roles professionally for years and then come to teach. They are not hiring somebody purely because of their academic credentials, although they have academic credentials. They are hiring people that have used those credentials in the workplace in a successful way and have real life experience. And then they come to the classroom. And on top of that, we as professors then reach out to our network of contacts to say, hey, would you like to come into the classroom for a class session and bring a real life case study or use case that you face every day? And let's talk through that with our students so that they are getting not just our real life experience, but others from around the industry and seeing exactly what they are faced with on a day-to-day basis. And then they get to practice those use cases. And that's true of all of our different programs, so that, as Thomas mentioned, it's the experiential learning in the class, having the real life experience from the professor, but then going out and experiencing the industry or their modality in real life, in real practice, with that experiential learning and the events that we are able to take students to.
I think one of the things that really surprised me about Northwood as I did learn more about it was, in the past, I'd always really kind of put Northwood in the same bucket as new car dealer, right? I almost only thought it was new car dealer, the manufacturer side. But then as you dig into it and you see that there's this whole aftermarket side, it was really impressive to me, and something that I admittedly wasn't overly aware of until we started having more and more conversations. Can you talk to me, and Thomas, maybe I'll start with you here, the difference between maybe the manufacturer side versus the aftermarket side, and really kind of how that splits apart?
Okay, so our OE side, or our automotive management side, as we refer to it, an incredible program. It's facilitated by an industry giant, LG Bright. He came from the OE background. He's passionate. He has his students involved. The dealership network, again, loves our students. They seek them out. And we just have developed that long-term relationship with the dealer network, because as our students go out of Northwood and into industry, they succeed at the dealership level. I mean, it's remarkable. Okay. And then on the aftermarket side, James kind of touched on it. We have a long history of excellent industry people who have served at Northwood. They've created a rich heritage of industry involvement, getting our students to industry events, going the extra mile for our students as far as introducing them to people who can facilitate their careers. And again, it's just a leadership perspective that is passionate about all things Northwood, but also passionate about the automotive space on the OE side, if you will, or the dealership side, and on the aftermarket side equally.
Where do the paths cross? I'm assuming there's some crossover in terms of classes that they're taking. Is that a correct assumption, or am I off base there?
Yeah, no, the cross paths, I believe, I believe there is only 6 classes different between the 2 tracks. So again, teaching them leadership, we're teaching them business, we're teaching them finance, certainly OE or dealership specific, like fixed ops courses, whereas the difference in the aftermarket, we're talking about category management and data and the importance of all of that. So, but really that business legacy that Northwood has been known for many years is consistent in both tracks.
It's interesting. I think one of our shortcomings as an industry, and as you know, hopefully we're bringing more fixed ops leaders out of a program like this, because a lot of times what we see, and I think this was, you know, historically consistent in the aftermarket world, but also the dealership world, where a lot of our service leadership they were technicians that, you know, were really good at what they did. We promoted them up into management without really giving them any tools or training to be able to make that leap. And in a lot of ways, I think we've really shot ourselves in the foot as an industry, because if even if that person's capable, if you're not giving them the tools to be able to be that great leader, they're maybe going to lead the same way that they were led when they were in the shop, right? And I think a lot of times that is what drives a lot of our people out of the industry. We have a major technician shortage, and a lot of it comes down to, you know, one, we want to get more people in, but we also have to keep the people that are already here. And without good leadership, we're not able to. So hearing that you are spending a significant amount of time talking about leadership and really going through specific scenarios where that leadership comes in handy is invaluable. I really, really, truly think that is at the core, the root of our problem in a lot of ways in this industry. James, when we talk about leadership, obviously a pretty important topic. What are we talking about with leadership in the school? What are we doing to really propel them to be these great leaders?
Well, leadership is one of the core facets to our philosophy. We call it the Northwood idea, and we incorporate opportunities for students to develop leadership within the classroom. We discuss it and discuss different ways to lead and try to give them a broad view of what leadership could look like and how they want to lead as an individual. But more than that, it's giving them the opportunity to practice it. It's the experiential side of our curriculum, where they can exhibit that and have opportunity to practice it, whether it's the car show, whether it's the internships that they pursue with industry employers, whether it's these experiential opportunities like next week going to Heavy Duty Aftermarket Week. 20 students will be sponsored and implanted with various companies around the commercial vehicle market, and they get to work the trade show with them. They get to follow them into one-on-one meetings. They get to experience these things that will help them develop their leadership skills, both through watching and then practicing. It's engaging with the industry. And all of these events, these experiences, help them practice what we are talking about in class. And then they get to see it in practice and they go, well, I see how that leader did it. That's interesting. And that's different how this leader did it. And now we can talk about it in class. And what do I want out of a leader? How do I want to lead? What do I like from a leader that's above me? And they get these opportunities versus just theory, just curriculum that's completely abstract to their life. This is concrete, real world examples that they can take with them.
I think that helps prevent some overwhelm that a lot of us got when we came into the industry in the first place, right? I know when I came in, and especially when I went to go work for an OE, there were scenarios and challenges that arise, whether it's dealing with a customer the proper way, an upset customer the proper way. And and how you handle that and how polished you are in that. And I was lucky to be able to learn from some really key mentors in my, I guess, early on in my career. But my goodness, being able to give them kind of that front lines experience while going to school, and then being able to take something that they've learned in school and apply it in real time where it's not forgotten, right? Like, I think anybody that goes through a lot of education, it's easy to maybe forget something because it's been a while since you've actually studied it, but being able to use it right away doesn't get much better than that, does it?
It
Oh,
does not.
so
When I interface with my class, I was kind of teasing them a bit this week, and I said, "Hey, in every class that I teach, the three things that I'm passionate about, you're going to hear, and that is the industry, leadership, and mental health. And we're going to pull all of those things together. We're going to connect the dots for you. We're going to equip you to go out into the industry and make great decisions that certainly benefit the organization that you work for, that helps you become a great leader, and that contributes ultimately to your life satisfaction." And we discuss that in every class. And I think that's how we develop great leaders, because we encourage our students to treat people with respect, to value them, to make them feel significant. And that is just a huge part of what we're trying to accomplish at Northwood.
Is your shop looking to fill open positions or grow your bench of candidates? Consider adding WrenchWay to your recruiting efforts. WrenchWay helps shops and dealerships all across the U.S. find better qualified candidates for their service centers. WrenchWay Top Shop memberships are only $150 per month and include unlimited job postings on the best job board in the industry, a guarantee of 10 qualified applicants, and the shops choose who is considered qualified, access to connect with and help over 650 high schools and post-secondary schools, and much more. Learn more about WrenchWay's Top Shop memberships by visiting wrenchway.com and selecting the For Shops tab under the Solutions dropdown. Link is in the show notes. I love that you talked about mental health there. And obviously, Thomas, with your background, I think you can bring a lot to the conversation from that side. But I think mental health in our business and in our industry is probably a little bit of an underrated thing or under talked about thing, right? We don't talk about it the way that we should. And I'm curious as to why and what you see with the industry as a whole of maybe opportunities or advice that you'd have for the industry to get some people in a better state of mind and just get their mental health in order.
Well, I think it's certainly from an organization perspective, it's closely connected to, hey, how you value your employees, how you make them feel significant, how you're balancing home life, work life, how you're contributing to their self-esteem and self-worth, which contributes to their confidence, which makes them better team members. So it is all connected with an organization's culture, those shared values, those shared beliefs that ultimately contribute to shared behaviors. And when there's conflict in those values and behaviors, then that contributes to less than favorable outcomes for both the organization and the team member.
I think a lot of our industry is so used to kind of the stick versus carrot approach, right? Where you're going out and, a lot of us were raised that way in the industry. And I think you almost, as a leader in this industry, feel a little bit nervous about the softer approach or being able to build them up. And I'm a huge believer in that, right? Because for myself, I struggled with confidence coming into this industry. I started off as a technician and I was a terrible technician, and it kicked me out and put me into a different part of the industry. Right. But looking back, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. But man, it would have been easier if it wasn't such a stick approach when I was growing up in it. And as you're saying that, I'm like, I, just a little touch of that across our industry would make such a difference for the entire industry.
it would make such a huge difference. And really organizations think, oh, we can't do that. We don't have the bandwidth to do that, or we can't afford it financially. But it's not a huge financial commitment to show sincere appreciation and just really communicate effectively and show sincere appreciation. That doesn't cost the organization anything.
Really doesn't. And
To do those things.
it just makes it a nicer work environment, right? I think we've all worked in places that might not have been a favorable place to work or have a favorable culture. But then if you get into a place that treats you well, treats you with respect, allows you to do your thing without kind of getting browbeat constantly, I do think the ROI on that is drastically higher than if you do take that stick approach. And I would just encourage everybody that's listening that, if you do a good self-evaluation of your leadership style and be honest with yourself, look in the mirror, I think we can all get better in that sense.
Without a doubt. And that's actually a great segue, Jay, because that leads us into our professional development coursework that, again, we're interacting with industry folks and we're encouraging them, hey, we encourage you to lead this way, where you're showing sincere praise and you're leading by example, and you're coaching and you're mentoring and you're valuing their feedback. So, we're taking that from the classroom, but also to the boardroom, so to speak, in the industry, where we're working with key industry folks on, hey, let's develop your leadership skills, and then let's transition those leadership skills into visionary attributes. And it's all connected, Jay. And we're honored that we have the opportunity to interact with our industry in this way. We really are.
It's
one of the exercises we do in the professional development space that resonates with people is to have them identify the key things that have formed them into the individual they are today. And it should not be any surprise to anyone when you boil those things down and take a look at them. Everybody's key events in their life, the key influencers, come down into a couple very similar categories: faith, family, the events of life. We all are the same. We all are influenced by the same things. And it really gets people to think about themselves. Okay, I was influenced by this, but my people on my team were also, just like me, influenced by these things. And how do I acknowledge them as an individual, first and foremost, that has dignity and worth in themselves, because they're a person just like me. And so we honor those people and what has formed them into who they are, and their dignity as a person just like me. And when we view them as that, not just another cog in the wheel to get what I want out of life, that changes the dynamic in the workplace. It doesn't mean that we're softer. It doesn't mean that we don't work hard, or that we work only a few hours a day and that everything is about our feelings, but we acknowledge them, that they have dignity because they're a person, and we acknowledge their personhood, and we acknowledge that their influencers are the same as our influencers. And that makes us more similar than different.
Both of you have mentioned how sought after these Northwood students are. James, would you have any advice for an employer that is bringing on a Northwood student and how to really help them max out their potential, right? How do you bring a Northwood student in and make sure that you're using all of their talents and everything that they've been taught over the years at Northwood?
Well, let me answer that question in a little bit different way. And I'll start with an example. I was contacted this week by one of my industry contacts who's at an employer, and he wrote with some excitement to say, I just hired a Northwood grad. They graduated in 23. They worked somewhere else for close to a year, and I just hired him, and he's great. And those are the types of communications we get fairly regularly from the industry. And so when we get these, obviously we're full of pride, and not in a negative sense, but we're so happy and thrilled and feel rewarded by that. But to answer your question, I don't think it's a matter of, hey, I come to Northwood in a student's senior year and I hire them, and now what do I do to maximize them? I think the process is I come to Northwood and engage with those students and make relationships in their freshman, sophomore, and junior years so that we have a connection, so that they're familiar with us, we're familiar with them, they have an opportunity to identify, and we as an employer have an opportunity to identify where the best fits are, so that the students, we're sending them to the places where they are the best fit, and vice versa. The employer has a student that's the best fit for them. And when we do that, then typically it is a win-win on both sides. And the employer and student have already identified that pathway where they can best utilize those skills for the employer and be rewarded on both sides. And so that's how we kind of like to see that go, not just blindly hire a student and then say, well, now what do I do?
The right fit means the world, doesn't it? I mean, to make sure that that personality lines up with the right employer, Thomas, very, very important for the success for both parties.
No, without a doubt, Jay. And really, again, goes back to our classroom. Um, we help our students understand, hey, make sure your values line up, make sure your career aspirations line up with the employer that you're choosing. Make sure you're choosing an organization that has a good upward mobility program and that it's going to reward hard work. And my encouragement to the organizations that hire our students, don't put them in a box. Let them spread their wings, because they're going to achieve incredible results for your organization, because that is what they're taught to do. It's intentional. It's very purposeful. So hire them, challenge them, and inspire them to greatness, and they'll achieve your goals for you.
Now, I'm not assuming any of your students are this way, but I know in my experience growing up that I was maybe that young, cocky person that came into a business and wanted to share my thoughts on everything. And how do you communicate with a student or talk to a student about the importance of coming in and being curious and learning about the business and learning that maybe you don't know everything, even though that you're really, really polished and you're well trained and you're well educated, but to go in with some level of humbleness to know, hey, there's going to be some rocky roads. There are going to be some challenges that you're going to have over the course of your career, even though, in a lot of cases, if they're going to Northwood, they've probably scripted out a good portion of their life up until that point, right? And I don't want to put all students in the same box. I'm just more so saying from my experience coming into the industry and looking back, there probably are some things I would have handled a little bit differently. So are there life experiences that maybe the two of you have had that you're able to talk to the students about, or just life advice in general when they come into the business setting to help prepare them for success? And I'll open that to either of you.
Well, in the classroom, we just help try to help our students understand the importance of communication and of humility and leadership attributes that really promote a harmonious work environment. But it's also just, again, when you're talking to a potential employer student, we tell them, look, you're interviewing them as well. And be transparent about your career objectives and how you want to operate and how you like to be involved. And really from the organization perspective, include them in decisions, maybe even outside of their department, that will contribute to them feeling valued and significant. And really it's a two-way street. The student certainly has to be respectful of the position that they're hired for, and then the organization really understanding that student's desire to provide feedback, even in a situation that they may not be involved in, right? Just providing, again, that reverse mentoring aspect that could be so helpful for our industry. You know, it just really starts to make a difference in both the students' life and in the organization.
And they have a large number of alumni, as we alluded to at the very top, in the industry already, that they can reach out in addition to us and bank on those experiences. Hey, what was your experience like? You just got hired a year ago. You just graduated, or you got hired 10 years ago. What was your career journey? What did you experience? And we actively promote those connections and that networking for our students so that they can have those conversations and learn and be prepared and understand what that journey might look like for them.
That was one of those questions. As I asked it, I'm like, is this a really stupid question? It's one of those, I think, when you look back over the course of your life and you're like, oh man, if I have so many things that if I could relate that to a young person to make sure that they don't make some of the same mistakes I did, that I think it helps them further their career and get in a better place. And I think both of you do a phenomenal job at kind of providing that mentorship and allowing them to still have the space to make their own mistakes, because a lot of times that's the best way to learn, is if you actually go out and maybe make those mistakes on your own too.
That's an unbelievable point, Jay. And to have that organization behind you, supporting you, even when we stub our toe, is incredible.
I've had some friends that have come back to Northwood. They didn't necessarily go there for their undergrad, but there's seemingly a number of different programs that you can go back and further your education there. Could you guys talk to me a little bit about maybe some of those opportunities? Maybe that person that's got industry experience wants to add to their repertoire or their knowledge base by going back and maybe getting involved in a program at Northwood.
Yeah, there's several ways to get involved. We have our professional development coursework. We call that the University of the Aftermarket. Anybody that's in the industry can come back, and we have 5 pillars, we say, in the University of the Aftermarket. We have intro courses for somebody new to the industry, or maybe new to their career or in a new position, and they just want a broader understanding of the industry. So we have these broad overview courses. We have leadership development, where we take high potential employees and we develop tactical leadership for them. We have executive development courses, where we take those leaders and try to transition them into a strategic visionary. We have data related courses on cataloging, the ACEs and PIEs standards. And then we also have custom professional development, that we can create a custom program for any organization in the industry. So that would be professional development, where you're in the industry and you just want to have some additional help, and you can earn industry designations from Northwood with those continuing education units that demonstrate that you're a lifelong learner. On the academic side, we have a number of master's degrees that you can pursue in organizational leadership for the automotive professional, an MBA program, business analytics, a number of different master's programs. And then beyond that, we also have a doctorate of business administration that you could pursue if you want to go even further. So a number of different avenues for continuing education.
I actually have to thank publicly Tara Topol. She was the one that kind of brought me back into this conversation. She's a really, really good friend of us here at WrenchWay. She runs a phenomenal shop, Topol's Service Center, over in Lake Mills, Wisconsin. So not too far from where we're headquartered at here in Wisconsin, but she was working on a project out there that was really cool, writing up a business plan for a different type of technician scheduling or pay plan. all encompassing as it related to a technician. And so that was really kind of what reintroduced me to Northwood, and hearing her talk about the project that she worked on and having to do it collaboratively with other industry folks that weren't just, they weren't the shop owner that was out there. They might have been in the part side of the business, but they were working together to put a project together that was pretty darn awesome. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you to Tara Topol for making this all happen again.
Tara's an amazing individual. She is a 2023 2.0 graduate. So we are proud to have her as an alumni. And this is just consistent feedback that we get from our professional development programs. They're life-changing, they're inspirational, and the industry professionals that experience our 2.0 journey, they are making huge impacts in our industry.
You all are making huge impacts on the industry, and our industry is a better place because of what the two of you are doing, what everybody at Northwood is doing. And it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know the two of you and to have you on the podcast. And I sure hope these conversations continue to evolve, because I am such a believer in what you are doing, and such a fan of the impact that you're having on the industry. So thank you so much for joining the show today, and for everything that you're doing out there.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks for inviting us on. It's a pleasure to be with you. We also want to take this moment to compliment you on the work that you're doing on the technician side. Man, we know that is critical, and just to kind of have the opportunity to connect what the industry needs is an amazing journey for myself. So thank you for inviting me.
And we are here to support what you are doing and all of the efforts of the industry to promote the industry, to encourage technicians and young people to pursue those career opportunities. We support that wholeheartedly. Whatever we can do to supplement that, to encourage that, we are all in.
Very humbling. Please go out, if you haven't, to check out what they're doing at Northwood University. A fantastic website. I think you guys do just a lot of great work, and look forward to seeing the university grow, to continue to produce these leaders that are out there, and look forward to our conversations in the future.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you.
That wraps up this week's episode of Beyond the Wrench. Be sure to tune in next week for another brand new episode. As a reminder, don't forget to rate and follow Beyond the Wrench on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps us get Beyond the Wrench in front of other fantastic shop owners, managers, technicians, and dealers just like you, so we can continue to help improve, promote, and grow this amazing industry. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll be back next week.